chapter 6 of the story, what we're going through is it's basically Moses herding cats in the wilderness. That's what it looks like. How many read chapter 6? Let's see it. All right. And if you don't know if this is your first week here, we're going through a series called The Story, and it's going through a book, and it's a kind of a Reader's Digest version of the Bible. And each section, it's chronological. Each section tells a little bit more about God's story and an individual thing. We've gone through creation. We've gone through also Abraham and Moses, and now we're taking a look at them traveling in the wilderness today. And here's what you have. We all love vacations. That's the great part of getting to the destination, whether that destination is Myrtle Beach, whether that destination is Disney World or Hawaii or wherever it is. Getting to the destination is so much fun. Or being at the destination. The journey to the destination, a lot of times, is a pain in the rear, is it not? Especially if you have kids, especially if you really young kids, because you're sitting there trying to entertain them. You're trying to get them, to not fight each other. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching, that kind of thing. We try to get them to do that, and it can be so amazingly frustrating. And what you have really this time is you have Moses driving the car, not with 2 or 3 people in the back seat, but 2 or 3 million people in the back seat. And what we see is him herding cats, wild, crazy, complaining, whining, frustrated, mean cats almost through the whole, through the desert. And what this happened is, go ahead and turn the map up there. I want to first say when this was happening. This was happening about 1446 to 1406 BC. And I want you to see the path. Remember, God had Moses take the people out of Egypt and into the promised land. But I want you to see where they went. Now, first of all, here's where they could have gone. They could have gone this route right here. Here's where they were, and here's where they're going. And they could have taken the Mediterranean route. You talk about beautiful. This is like Highway 1 in California. This is just beautiful, right along the Mediterranean coast. They could have also taken this route, which is the most popular route. This was basically I-85 going down. This is where everybody took. This is also another easy route right there through everything. But he didn't take them the most scenic route, didn't take them the most popular route, didn't take them the easiest route. What he took them is this route. Dun, da, 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 da. Why would he do that? Why would he take them on absolutely the hardest route it seems like they could possibly take? Does God not like them? Did God not love them? Why would he take them the hardest route? And I believe God tells us his motive when he said this. He said in Exodus chapter 13, when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them on the road through the Philistine country, though it was shorter. For God said, if they face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led the people around by the desert road towards the Red Sea. Did you hear God's motive in that? God didn't give them on the wild around everything route because he didn't love them, but because he wanted to take care of them. He wanted to protect them. He knew that if they went straight to the promised land, they couldn't handle it. If they faced what they were going to face, they couldn't handle it. God had to prepare them in order to make it there. Have you ever noticed that it seems like God, in my life, rarely goes the easy way? Rarely goes the most scenic way, rarely goes the fastest way. It seems like he'll always go eventually the right way, the best way. But man, rarely does he go the easiest way, because I don't know what it is. Maybe he needs to develop my character between here and there. And not only was God protecting them, also I think the reason he took a long route was he needed to detox them. They were slaves, and they had a slave mindset. That they were out of Egypt, but Egypt was not out of them. They had been slaves for 400 years, and they didn't know what it meant to be free. They didn't even know how to think free. They didn't know how to live free. And I think in the same way, we do the same thing, don't we? Because we sing the song, I'm no longer a slave to fear, I am a child of God. And that's true. There's truer words that have never been spoken, but the thing is, a lot of times we still think like slaves too. Because here's the difference between a slave, and here's the difference between a child in a family. Here, it's all on performance, isn't it? Here, it's all on relationship. Here, the motive is fear, and over here the motive is love. And we can go on and on and on, but a lot of times we're in this camp. We're thinking that it's our relationship with God is based on performance, and a lot of times it's fear involved. And God's saying, no, you're my child. It's not, you don't have to earn my love. You don't have to earn my respect. You already have it. You already have my favor. You already have my grace. You already have my goodness, and just live in that. But a lot of times our mindset is over here instead. And, so the title of this section is Wandering. And what is wandering? Wandering, I think, is going from where you were to where you need to be. Going from where you are right now to where you need to go. And in that time, that gap between here and there, it can be so frustrating, can't it? It can be so maddening. It can be so lonely. It can be so scary in those times. And there's always those times in between. There's the time between when you start to date and you get married. There's the time when you get out of school but you haven't found a job. There's the time you get laid off until you find a new job. There's the time you get divorced until you get remarried. There's the time you lose a loved one until you see them in heaven again. And I could just go on and on and on. And the different things. And we're almost always in some sort of transition or of one way of life or another. But a lot of times some of us are in huge transition areas of life, and there's that scary uncertain time in the desert, in the wilderness. And so here's the thing, what do we do in those times? How do we view God? How do we respond to God in that wandering time of life? Because here's the thing, we don't do it well a lot of times. And here's the reason. Because we always, it seems like, are focused on the destination instead of the journey, all right? We are so obsessed with getting there that we forget that how we get there is really, really important as well. And a case in point is, guys, we are horrible at just being obsessed with the destination a lot of times. Case in point, and an example of that is us driving, right? I mean, think about it. We get on the GPS and say we're going to Disney World with the family, and it says we're going to get there at 3:30, and we're going, I know I can get there by 3:15, right? And I've driven with some of you. Some of you are going, I could get there by noon, no problem. And so, a child in the back seat needs to go to the bathroom, and we look back and go, you just went 7 hours ago. You need to go again already, and things. And so we're, a lot of times we're obsessed with getting to the destination that we forget to enjoy the trip along the way. And children are even worse because they go, don't even get out of the driveway before you hear, are we? Okay, you knew it too, right? But don't we do that sometimes? We are sometimes so obsessed with getting to the destination, whatever it is, whether it's graduating or whether it's marriage or whether it's, retirement or what it is, that we forget the journey along the way, that God really cares about the journey. He cares about how we respond. He cares about our faith. He cares about our character in here. He cares about our purity in here. He cares about our whatever it is. He is wanting to develop our character between here and there. And I really believe that God probably even cares more about the journey than he does about us getting to the destination, because here it is. I thought of this last night, and this is just one of those things I really believe, man, it was just God tapping my heart in a big way, is this. If there's a pregnant lady, imagine her, now she's going to have a child over here. Maybe imagine two ladies, and one of them is taking her vitamins and she's eating good nutrition and everything. The other lady, she's taking drugs. She's consuming large quantities of alcohol and things like this, and not looking what she eats and things. They're not doing that. You might have two babies over here, but are they going to be significantly different and healthy, health-wise, on this side? Simply because of what they did in the middle. They both got pregnant. They're both going to have babies, but over here is huge. It's huge. It's huge. It's important what you do there. And the same thing with God, that he wants to birth something in our life. And he's created something over here, but it's in between how we do this. How we live every day is just as important or more important than the destination we finally end up with. And here's think about this. Think about what they've experienced already. The children of Israel have had incredible things happen to them. They have watched the plagues in front of them, that they have watched God deliver them through the plagues. And I've seen miracle after miracle, these funky things after funky things. And they watched God set them free from the strongest nation in the world. And they came to a sea, and God parted the sea so they could walk right through it, right? And then the Egyptians tried to follow them, and they were drowned, and this incredible thing. And then as if that wasn't enough, every day of their life they looked out, and God was leading them with a pillar of a cloud by day and fire by night. And they had a tangible evidence every day of their life, God is with us. I mean, tangible evidence. And then they also had miracle after miracle that they had seen with their own eyes. And that's the great story, but then things happen. And here's what would happen. You'd see this sequence. You'd see they came into a crisis situation. And instead of them going, you know what, God just took us through all this, and he delivered us from all this, and man, he's going to see us through. Instead, always they freak out right here. And they totally go, and they grumble, and they complain, and they whine, and all this here. And God, in his mercy, comes through for them. And over here, they go, the next crisis that comes, they're going, what are we going to do? And they freak out again. And you're going, wait a second. Do you have spiritual amnesia or something? Because look at what happened. Look at all this track record over here, and you don't even remember what he's done it. He's done it time after time after time. You don't even remember that. And I'll tell you what, I do the same thing, don't you? I mean, there's so many times that God has seen me through every area of my life and seen me through the dark areas, the tough areas, the great areas, everything. And he's seen miracle after miracle in my life. And I have tangible evidence every day that God is alive and God is good and God loves me and God cares about me. And the next crisis, it seems like I'm going, what's God going to do? What am I going to do? Oh, no. And I whine and complain, and I do this whole thing. And maybe somebody else can relate to me in here. And maybe God puts that in his word because we can relate so much to what how the children of Israel are responding when that happens. And they don't even get out of the driveway before they start complaining. I mean, immediately in the desert, they start complaining about their hardship. And then the second thing they complain about is the food. And listen to this. The rabble with them, this is on page 58 in the story. The rabble with them began to crave. Again, the Israelites started, here's that word, wailing. And notice something. The whining, the wailing, the complaining, it started with just a handful of people, didn't it? It started with just the rabble on the side. And pretty soon the entire nation, the nation was whining and complaining. And that's one thing you'll find about a complaining spirit. And I really do believe there is a complaining spirit. And the first thing about it is this. It is contagious, isn't it? It is, and if all you have to do is just 2 words can show you the power and how contagious a complaining spirit is. Social media, right? I mean, you think about it. There can be one person, 2 people who's just noses out of joint, and suddenly you've got dozens of people, hundreds of people whose nose is out of joint because a complaining spirit is contagious. A complaining spirit also has selective memory. The rabble, it says, with them began to crave other food, and again the Israelites started wailing and said, if only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost, also the cucumbers, melons, listen to this one, leeks, onions, and garlics. Can you imagine their breath? But now we have lost our appetite. We don't see anything but this manna. And they're actually going, man, remember Egypt? That's good times. We had good times. Those were great. I mean, and I'm going, what are they smoking, right? Because Egypt, they were slaves in Egypt. They were tortured in Egypt. They were whipped in Egypt. They had all these horrible things happen. They were crying out to God, please deliver us, please deliver us. And yet they're remembering it as if it was something fantastic. They're remembering it as if it was a fondue party at Club Med, right? And so, they remembered the good things of Egypt and forgot all the bad of Egypt. And what they're doing now is they're remembering the bad things that are happening in the wilderness and forgetting all the good that's happening. And I understand the part about food because I remember my first mission trip I ever took was to Singapore. And for 9 weeks I was there, and we had rice. When some Singaporeans came to the United States, they said all they had was potatoes, right? So it goes both ways. But I was sitting there, and I couldn't eat rice for 6 months after I came back from Singapore because we had it all the stinking time, right? And so I understand that, but then, I'm sure when the children of Israel looked out manna again, they're going, what's wrong with Pop-Tarts? Just one day, Pop-Tarts, one day. Or, I bet they would kill probably for some Frosted Flakes, right? Or something in there. But here's and think about, ladies, think about the cookbook you'd have there. It would be 1,000 ways to prepare manna, right? That would be the name of the cookbook. And you'd have, manna burgers and manna bagels and manna cotti, banana bread, you'd have all these things, but you think about it, what was manna when you look at it? Manna was a miracle. Manna was God providing every single day. Manna was God taking care of his people. All they had to do, they didn't have to hunt it. They didn't have to plant it. They didn't have to reap it. They didn't have to harvest it. They didn't have to weed it. They didn't have to do anything. They just had to pick it up. You talk about Wonder Bread, that was Wonder Bread. Every day they woke up to a miracle, and yet they're complaining about the miracle. I wonder how many times God provides for us, just loves on us, take care of us, and we even complain about the miracle. And something else is a complaining spirit twists our trust. Look at Exodus chapter 14. It says this. They said to Moses, was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. And Deuteronomy 16, you have brought us out here into the desert to starve this entire assembly to death. Oh my goodness. Talk about twisting. Not only is their memory twisted, but their thoughts of God and their thoughts of Moses are twisted as well. What was God's motive for bringing his people out of Egypt? Love, compassion, concern, grace, mercy. How did they view it? They viewed it as if his intention was to take them out into the desert in order to kill them. Think about that. And I wonder, I don't know about you, but the thing that probably bugs me the most in life is when I have the right motive and I'm trying to do the right thing and I'm accused of having the wrong motive and doing, and does something bug you any more than that? When you really try and you're going, and you're totally misunderstood when you're wanting to do the right thing? Maybe God knows how we feel on that. Maybe God Almighty, because I'll tell you what, I've maybe not said this verbally, but I know I've said it in my heart sometimes, that I've thought, maybe God doesn't have my best interest in mind. And this is the God that gave me life. This is the God that died for me. This is the God that has given me blessing after blessing in life, and sometimes amazingly, and I don't understand why, I actually think that maybe he doesn't have my best interest in some areas. I don't know why that happens, but again, I can relate to these guys. And something to be a complaining spirit will not only twist our understanding of God, it can twist our understanding of our parents. It can twist our understanding of leaders, of our spiritual leaders, things like this, that we can get into complaining and we can even question their motives. I remember when I was a youth pastor, one of the kids in my youth group, he said, man, my parents don't love me. He said, and I said, they don't even want me to have any fun. And I said, what do you mean? What makes you say they don't want to have any fun? He said, they will not let me go to this party. Now, I know his parents. I knew his parents were great parents, and his parents really loved him. And his parents loved him so much, they didn't want him to go to this particular party. You know what I mean? Because this particular party, he could get in trouble. He could probably get arrested at this particular party. So I said, so what are you going to do? And he said, I'm going to go someplace where nobody tells me what to do. And I said, where's that? He said, I'm going to join the military. Good thought, Sparky. Nobody will ever tell you what to do in the military. So sometimes we get ourselves distorted. In this section of the Bible, 10, count them 10 times, they are whining in just a few chapters. One after one. We have 3 accounts of that in the story. And every time God pulls the car to the side and he disciplines his kids. There's some things that upset God. There's some things that frustrate God. And apparently whining is towards the top of that. And something else that, what is whining? Whining is the exact opposite of worship. Worship is we thank God for who he is. We believe in who he is. We thank him for what he's done in our life. Whining is the exact opposite. What it is we complain about what God has done, and we don't believe in his promises, and we don't trust in that, and we say he's not going to come through. And there's a difference between night and day, and it really comes down to 2 things. It comes down to lack of faith and ingratitude. They really don't believe God's going to come through, and they're not thankful for what God has already done. And don't you want to look at them sometime as you're reading about this and go, what is wrong with you people? I mean, what God has got you through, what God has done, how in the world could you ever doubt God again after you've seen a pillar of fire, after you've seen a sea open up? How could you possibly ever do that? And then I get upset at them, and then I think maybe the biggest reason I get upset at them is they remind me of somebody. They remind me of moi, right? Because sometimes I can do the same thing. There is no excuse that I ever have for not trusting God completely and fully in my life. I'm just being honest, right? I mean, I'm just being real. That sometimes I have great faith. Sometimes I have incredible faith to believe in God for the impossible. And other times that a crisis comes or something is, and I look at it as if God's never come through for me in my life. And so here's the thing I want to do. I want to worship a lot more and whine a lot less. That's the desire in my life. Because I worship too little and I whine too much in proportion, and I want that to be completely reversed. And maybe you want to go on that same journey with me. And sometimes we just need a little perspective. That John Ortberg says this: anytime there's struggle in your life, say 4 words: it could be worse, right? And it really could. You think about life, and sometimes you look into everything, and things are going tough in your life, and then you look at somebody else and you go, I don't have it that bad, really. Or think about even that you look, maybe your car's broken down and you're complaining about that, and then you realize when you think about it, you go, 85% of the people in this world, they don't even have a car. And my car actually has a house for it. And 50% of the people don't have a house in this world. And maybe here's some other ways to just go, it could be worse. That's a rough day right there, right? How about a little too much pepper on your food? What do you think? Don't even know what happened there. Those are a swarm of bees. Enough said, right? How many of you have been on both ends of that before? I've been on both ends of that thing, and then right there, just starting a little symbolically there. So, but there's something that there's a lady that was involved, that she was a missionary in a place where she was working with a leper colony. This is a true story. And there was so what she was doing, she would lead them in worship. And the last night she was there, she asked the people, she said, do you have a favorite song? Does anybody have a favorite hymn that we can sing? And a hand went up. A hand that didn't have any fingers on it went up. And she looked at a lady that did not have a nose and didn't have any lips. And she said, what song do you want to sing? And the lady said, count your blessings. And here's the words to the song. When upon life's billows you are tempest tossed, when you are discouraged, thinking all is lost, count your many blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. Are you ever burdened with a load of care? Does the cross seem heavy you were called to bear? Count you many blessings, every doubt will fly, and you will keep singing as the days go by, just like this lady.
My story starts, I was 2 years old, started walking on my tiptoes, no big deal, it was just kind of weird, and then turned 8, really active in sports from 5 up. Freshman year, I was on varsity softball team. Every time I would go to practice, we'd do sprints. And so I'd stand on the line to do sprints and run as fast as I could, and I'm thinking I'm flying, beating everybody like I used to. And then I'm running like I'm 300 pounds overweight. I don't know what's wrong. Every time I would go to practice and come home, I would just cry before I go to bed because I was in so much pain. Sophomore year, I was walking up the steps, felt like I had carried 2 backpacks on my back, just be completely out of breath. And so I went home and I told my mom, I was like, this is what I feel like, and I don't know why I feel this way. We went to the doctor again, to the same doctor I've been seeing since I was in elementary school. She had me do a series of tests. I was sitting there, she looked at me and she said, Shelby, I think you have muscular dystrophy. Oh my gosh, this shouldn't be me. Okay, God, I know that this is a part of your plan for me, and I'm ready. I am so ready to take on this challenge, because I know if I have to give up walking, that's nothing compared to what your son did on the cross. As I'm sitting there, I remember what God had told me in middle school. this something medical, whatever it is, it's not going to go away. And I was like, whoa, like, you just spoke to me. Like, I had this feeling that you were going to give me something, and in that moment, I just knew. It was like this peace. Because of sin entering the world, I have this disease. That is why I have this disease. Because my God is so powerful, He is sovereign over all of it, and He can take something so horrible, something so painful, and turn it into this beautiful passion. And at the end of the day, sin and this disease doesn't get the last word. God does, because He's that big, because He's that powerful.
Wow. It's one thing for the kids to complain in the back seats. It's another thing to have the people next to you complain. And that's what happened with Moses, with Miriam and Aaron, his brother and sister. They start complaining too and say, you're not the only one that can drive. We can drive just like you can drive. And God tells them, God again takes them kind of out to the woodshed after they have this. And then something else happens is this. You have all the leaders. There's 12 leaders that are called out to be spies to spy out the promised land. And these are the best drivers from each tribe, right? They pick the leader of that tribe to go and help spy out the land. So this is the best of the best of the best that are going there. And they spy out the land, and they come back, and everybody says, how was it? And they go, incredible. It was better than God said. It's truly a land flowing with milk and honey. It's amazing. I mean, here's some of the produce. It's unstinking believable. But we can't take it. There's no way we can go in here. Because there's giants in the land. There's fortified cities with walls and everything. There's no way we can do that. And Caleb's going, wait. No, yes, we can. And they're saying, no, the land's going to devour us. And we're going to say, no, we've got God. Have you forgotten about that? We have God on our side. And if God's on our side, if God wants us in there, we're going to devour them. They're not going to devour us. And there's this whole thing going on. And these 11 people over here, 10 people over here, you know what they do? They start just starting a campaign of negativism. And pretty soon you've got Moses and Aaron and Joshua and Caleb over here. And you've got an entire nation over here. And they're saying, let's do this. We can do this with God. And they're saying, there's no way we can do this. Let's go back to Egypt. And these people actually talked about stoning these people. And let me ask you this question. If you were there and you lived in that day, which side would you be on? Which do you think you would probably end up in that group? Because I pray, man, that God is raising us something in each one of us, that we're going to be these kind of people and saying, God, I don't care what anybody else says. I'm going to trust in God. I'm going to believe in God. I'm going to believe God is good. I'm going to believe He's powerful. And if He wants us in the promised land, we're going in the promised land. Whether there's giants in the land or not, whether there's walls in the land or not, we're going to get there. If God says we're going to get there, this is the people I want to be, and this is the people I want to hang with. Amen? And then and then finally, God has a gutful. About the 10th time, they start complaining and saying, God's brought us out in the wilderness in order to kill us. Have you ever had a gutful? Have you ever been driving in the driver's seat and you've just had a gutful from what's going on in the back seat? I know you never had that because you have Christian kids, right? And I've never had that because I have pastors' kids, so they've never, ever complained, right? And so there's this going on in the back. And finally, God pulls the car over and says, all right, I'm going to give you what you're asking for. You're saying you're going to die in the wilderness? Then you're going to die in the wilderness. I'm going to let you have what you've proclaimed all this time. What you've proclaimed about me, I'm going to let you live out what you believe about me. Probably some powerful stuff. And so He said, anybody over 20 who whined and complained, they're not going to ever see the promised land. It's going to be your children, but your children are going to have to live in the desert for 40 years because of your disobedience. And I wonder how many times our actions affect our children. Our actions as a church can affect the next generation positively or negatively. Our action as parents can affect our children. We have to remember we're never driving the car alone. There's always going to be people in the driver or in the back seat that we can have an influence on. And here's just some thoughts, okay, about what we just looked at. That first of all, God wants us to reach the destiny, but He cares very much about the journey. He cares what are we doing between here and there. How are we responding to God? Are we responding in faith? Are we responding in gratitude? Are we responding in love, in obedience, in purity, in whatever that is that we need to respond in? And then also, we need to trust in God's GPS, which is God's positioning system. Because here's the thing. The children of Israel thought they knew what was best. They didn't have a clue what was best. We think we know what is best. We don't have a clue what is best. We've never gone this way before, just like they've never gone this way before. But there's a God who knows what is best. He's not guessing. He's not taking, flipping a coin and saying, I don't know, let's go this way. He knows what is best for us. Just as was said up here, God knows the plans he has for us, plans to prosper us, not to harm us, plans to give us hope in the future. But he has plans. He has plans, and they're good plans. Another thing is we need to worship more and whine less. And finally, we remember the passengers in our car. Down here, what we have, or you should have in here is the community covenant, right? I hope you got this. And what it is it's saying this, is Moses stood before the people as he was about to die. And he gave an incredible speech. And here's the end of what he said. He's come a long way. Remember at the first, he said, I don't speak well. And then he gives one of the most beautiful speeches in the Bible. Deuteronomy 30, this day I call heaven and earth as witness against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. He's done this. You can go God's way, you can go your way. You can be blessed, you can be cursed in life. And he says this, here's what I'm saying. Now choose life. You got a choice, life and death. Choose life so that you and your children may live and that you may love the Lord your God, listen to his voice and hold fast to him, for the Lord is your life. And this is just part of the things with the story. And it's a community covenant saying, you know what, I'm making a covenant with my community, with my spouse, my children, this church, with God, with it may be just you to say, here's what I'm choosing to do. And I want you to look at these. I will choose life and prosperity. Because it's making a choice of saying, I want to go your way, God. I will love the Lord my God. I will walk in obedience to him. I will keep his commandments, decrees, and laws. I choose to live and increase and to receive the blessings of God. And I choose to trust in God and his leadership. And what I want us to do, just take a moment and if you're saying, you know what, I want to do this. I'm ready to, I choose life. I choose life. My family, as a family, we're going to choose life together. We have a choice to go, and here's the thing, to enjoy the trip, to care about the journey, not just the destination. But in this time that we call day to day, that we call moment by moment, we're going to choose life. We're going to choose to believe. We're going to choose not to whine. We're going to choose to worship instead. And if we could just fill this out, and then what we're going to do, and just do that for a moment, and then we're going to stand and sing. And we're going to, if you can bring these up, just as a sign of between you and God of God, I give this a dedication to you. The altar is open as we stand and sing.